Hello and welcome. I hope you're safe and well. In today's exciting episode, I make 2 silver jackets. Oh my gosh, this fabric is an absolute nightmare to work with. And then I start beading one. As you can see, it's not quite entirely beaded, but that's because this design is a doozy and it's so detailed.
It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket.
Yes, 2 jackets both of them in metallic silver fabric. I had this 1 yard piece of this fabric and it's fashion width, so it's extra wide. So the last jacket I made was a Burda 6120 and I made it double-sided. So this is before I made essentially 2 jackets, then sewed them together and it becomes a reversible jacket. So this is me just showing you both sides. And yes, I liked this pattern, but what I decided to do was I don't like the deep V-neck in the front, so I just did a few tweaks to the pattern. I changed the neckline at the front, also lowered the neckline a little bit at the back because it's right up to your neck, and the sleeves they're a good sleeve, but they're ultra slim. And when you're embellishing or putting beading on a jacket, you need more room because you have to put one hand inside the sleeve and one hand outside the sleeve. So the bigger the sleeve, the more room you have to do the beading. So I made the sleeve bigger. And obviously when you make a sleeve bigger, you have to make the sleeve hole bigger as well. The sleeve side, like the top of where you put the sleeve in. So I did all that, and I also have one at a full length and one at a cropped length. So I just used my iPhone, and it's like 4 inches or something or whatever, and that's how much I cropped it by. It is quite cropped, but I'm doing that chandelier beading that I did on the grey jacket, and so the actual jacket, once all the hanging down bits of the bead are done, it's not going to be as cropped as it is. So just bear that in mind when you see it. It does look cropped, very cropped. But once it's also, I just wear my jackets over a t-shirt and jeans, so they never look overly formal. So it does look more like a bolero jacket than a proper jacket. But that's just because I've made it a little shorter. And this is me just going through the process of making the torso of the jacket and the sleeves of the jacket, and then I'm going to put them together. So I obviously did the long seams by machine sewing, but stitching back all the seam allowance has to be done by hand. And because of the type of fabric I was using, you can't stitch into the outer fabric. You can only stitch the hem or the seam allowance and the backing fabric of your outer jacket. So it took longer than usual. And oh my goodness, it looks like a space thing. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, see, I love those snowdrops. They're white flowers with green dots on them. And so I wanted to make a jacket inspired by that. And I have this metallic jacket in this metallic fabric in green, but I cannot for the life of me remember where I put it. I bought oodles of it. I bought at least 4 yards of it, and it's fashion width. So I bought loads of fabric because I was going to make a vintage dress with a matching bolero. And then I realized, then I held it up to me, the fabric up to me, and it glows green because it's metallic. It's basically like a muted mirror, and or stained glass windows. So if it's red, it makes you look all red, and if it's green, it makes you look ill. So I put it away somewhere. I was like, I'll use that for something else later. And it's in one of the cardboard boxes, but none of the cardboard boxes are labelled. Anyway, so I've made the 2 jackets, and we're at the point where I have to attach the sleeves. And so, you put the pins in where all the notches are, and then you put the pins in the torso where all the notches are. Then you match up the pins, and then you pin the rest of it. With this particular pattern, jacket pattern, I would say in general, when you're setting sleeves or putting the sleeves in, what I tend to do is pin the top center of the shoulder of the sleeve onto the shoulder, and then pin the side one, so the undersleeve one, and then pin the bottom 2/3 and then ease in the top third. But this sleeve here, it doesn't have a very rounded rise. It's probably, if you have normal shoulders, or particularly if you have large shoulders, broad shoulders, this sleeve won't work for you. But I've got very slight frame, so it's fine for me. But yeah, if you've got broad shoulders, you might want to increase the rise, which just means alter the sleeve a little or use a different pattern. I always recommend Vogue 7975 because it's a really, really solid pattern and it's really well drafted. There's lots of points where you can alter it. And also it's just a good pattern to start with, but also the instructions are really, really clear. So if you're doing your first jacket and you do have broad shoulders, maybe this isn't the one to do, because this, as I said, the sleeves are really slim too. I would recommend the Vogue 7975. Once you've done a good pattern, then if the next pattern you do is a little bit off, you'll be like, oh, no, it's not me. There's something wrong with the pattern. Whereas if the first jacket pattern you do is a little bit not perfect, then you'll always doubt yourself, I think. And I wouldn't want people to give up on making jackets just because they did one dud pattern. There are dud patterns out there. But yeah, so that's why I always recommend Vogue 7975 because it's a sturdy one. Even if you don't actually like the style visually, it will teach you how to make a jacket, like go through all the steps and all the troubleshooting of making a lined jacket. So as I said, I'm attaching the sleeves to this one. Oh my God, and whatever you do, don't just on a whim decide to work with fabric like this. It's basically metallic foil, and they've used this sort of heat glue to seal it to mesh. So it's really stubborn. It's really difficult to stick pins in, and if you do stick a pin in it, the whole of the pin is visible. Like, it's kind of like leather. You're not really supposed to stick pins in it. I suppose you should use those quilting clips instead of pins, but I was just about to bead it anyway, so it doesn't actually matter. But oh my gosh, this is such a nightmare to work with. Anyway, I pinned the sleeves in, I machine sewed them, and then once you've done them, then just turn them out to check that there's no puckers or gathers or anything like that. If there is, carefully unpick it, redo it again until it's perfect. With this jacket in particular, it is easier to hand stitch your sleeves in rather than machine sew them. Anyway, once they're done, the bottom half of your sleeve, so the undersleeve, you need to clip the curves so that when you fold back the seam allowance, it sits properly. You don't need to do it to the top half. I prefer to not do it to the top half because it creates a nicer curve. And then normally with almost every fabric, what you do is you pin the seam allowances. You don't splay open the seam allowance. You push them both into the sleeve and pin them into place. This just helps your sleeve have a nice round look. And then normally what I do is I stitch it twice, once from the outside and once from the inside. But as I said, with this particular very annoying lame fabric, you can't stitch into it, otherwise every stitch is visible. So I'm just stitching into so I could only stitch it from the inside, and it took forever. So basically you have to stitch down all of the layers of the seam allowance and only the inside layer or the structural layer of the outer garment. It's very time consuming, but I did it in the end. Now, the reason the sleeves stick out a bit is because I'm doing heavy beading on both of these jackets. So I've used 2 layers of netting as a structural layer. So if you were just making a jacket, you would just use 1 layer of netting for the structural layer, and then it wouldn't stick out so ridiculously. And also, I did sort of hurry a little bit as I was stitching. So there are a few wrinkles, and also you can just sort of sit there and tease it out and make it look proper. But I was just like, okay, got the first one done, shoot that. Got the second one done, shoot that. So with this second one, the cropped one, I actually made a deeper neckline as well, and I like that. So after I finally finished these 2, I will alter the pattern slightly so that it's got that slightly more deep neckline. It's only a couple of, like an 1/8 of an inch or half a centimetre. And so both of them are done. The shorter cropped jacket has slightly wider sleeves than this normal length jacket has normal width sleeves. So if I make it again, and I also altered the bottom of the back, obviously. So I like both of these, but I think, and then I started beading one. And while I was beading this, so I think I showed you in the last sewing vlog, I had this bag of sequins. They're big round sequins, and I fold them in half, and there's only 1 hole punched in around sequins. So I used a quilt pin to punch a second hole in, and then I just started beading it. So because I wanted something green, because I love those flowers. But also I think emerald and silver look pretty amazing together. So yeah, this particular style of embellishment takes so long to do. And if I had my time, like you can obviously on one side, I was like, I wonder what it'll look like if you just had some around the edges. I've put 2 layers of netting in this as the structural layer for this, which you only do when you're going to do really heavy beading. So I couldn't do that, but I just wanted to see what it looked like. So here I am just doing more and more, and I decided where the sleeves are. What I'm going to do is basically I pin the sleeve to the torso of the jacket, and that section there where they're pinned and they meet, I know that part there I have to cut some sequins in half. And instead of them being 3-dimensional, because these ones I folded them in half, so half of it is flat on the jacket and half of it sticks up, and it's attached with 2 seed beads. But under the arm, like on the actual sleeve, and under the arm on the torso, I'm going to have just half ones. So it will look the same visually, but I won't be forever stabbing myself. So I guess it's not that interesting, but I'm just slowly filling in. Spoiler alert, I don't get the whole thing done because you have to sort of balance the sequin on top of the jacket, then with your other hand hold the jacket and put the seed bead and the needle through, and it's very complicated. Normally you would do this sort of beading in, like you would have the jacket in pieces, do all the beading, then hand stitch the jacket together. But the jacket is more robust if you make the jacket, then do the beading onto it. It's just much stronger structurally. So yeah, I'm trying it this way. I'm also going to make another version of this. This is me showing you the bits that are going to be on the hangy down bits of the chandeliers. I've got lots of teardrops in emerald green. And I've also got some cube ones. I think I'm just going to use the teardrop ones, and I was sure that I had some see-through dark green beads, so transparent ones, so I will go searching and try to find them. And I think I'll save all of these ones for something else and I'm using this metallic dark green ones, emerald green ones for attaching the sequins, the large sequins. I think if I have my time again, I might use clear seed beads to attach them. And then, because particularly at night, you really see the seed beads. Whereas if I'd used clear glass seed beads, they would be, and dark green thread, they would be basically transparent, and all you would see is the shape of the actual sequins, not the beads holding them down. And I think would look more magical. So it looks very Paco Rabanne this way, which is quite cool and very 1960s. And I'm not sure what I'll do with the other one. I was thinking I've got these size sequins, these big round ones, in loads of different pastel colours and a few pale gold and lots of silver ones. So I was thinking if I mixed them all together, maybe there would be enough for the silver jacket. But based on how many I've used already on this one, I'm not sure that I'll have enough. So I'll have a scrounge around and see if I can find some more silver ones to mix into the mix. But because I think pastel and silver on silver would look interesting. And this is all I got to. So... oh no, I think I do a little, this is one more section. I do a little bit more. So I've done most of the bottom part of this sleeve. So I can work out how many it's going to take. And so once I've done all the bits that are three-dimensional, then I'll unpin the sleeve from the torso and I'll cut some in half and I'll put them in. So I've got a plan for how it's going to work. And I think I know what I'm going to do on the design feature on the back, the triangle. It's going to be like a jungle of all different dark green flowers. I think I've showed you them in the Yaffa jacket. I showed them to you. I've got this. There's not enough to do a whole jacket, but there's enough to do a feature on the back of one jacket. And I was like, I want a whole green one where it's green on green, and I couldn't find the green fabric. But this is I think with the triangle, I might put, But anyway, it's going to be beautiful. And the other one, maybe pastel or these green large sequins that I have. I also have red large sequins. So I guess I could make the other silver jackets red. And it'd end up being a sort of pinky red, maybe. And then, but I don't know. I feel like that one's a little bit long to have hangy, like chandelier beading on the bottom. So maybe I'll mix the pastel ones that I have with some pastel beads. And that way I'll get the right weight that I'm looking for, plus the sort of pastel look that I was hoping for. I'm not sure. I'll finish this one first. So it's going to have all over beading like this. And once I've finally done, that's what I consider the base beading. And so once I've done all of that, then I'll do the triangle feature on the back with the little forest of dark green flowers. And once I've done that, then I will add the chandelier beading, because the chandelier beading is really tricky. It sort of drags all over the table, so it has to be the last thing you do. So I'll do the chandelier beading, and if I can't find those transparent dark green beads, then I might use clear beads to sort of mirror the silver color of the base fabric, but use the teardrop green beads. And for the next jackets that I'm going to draft, because I do want to do a version of this that has long sleeves, because essentially what I'm trying to find is a jacket pattern that uses exactly 1 yard or 1 meter of quilting cotton with fabric. So fashion fabrics are usually 60 inches wide or 130 to 150 centimeters wide. 135 to 150, and quilting cottons are much more narrow. They are 112 centimeters of pattern, 115 centimeters of actual fabric width, which is 45 inches. So there's a considerable difference between the two. I got both these jackets out of 1 yard of fashion width fabric. It's just that little bit wider, so all the big awkward bits, they just fit perfectly in fashion width, but quilting cottons come in all the really cute little prints. So yeah, that's why I want to find a jacket pattern that fits that. So I will try this a crop that's slightly longer than this one. I will try it with different length sleeves. I also think I'll try it with a slightly shorter sleeve, because this sleeve ended up a little longer than I thought it would. I like it, but once you hang down the chandelier bits, I think I might start with a shorter sleeve and we'll see how that looks. And yeah, I think I'll do a few more iterations before I finally settle on which ones I particularly like. But until then, I will keep applying these green sequins. It's taking forever, but I love it. Anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and happy sewing!